We live? I don't have any fancy music today, guys, so I apologize about that. But what I do have is a lot of good, fancy, great, and amazing conversation for you guys today. So I'm really, really, really excited to be here today and to talk about this subject today that is, I won't say is near and dear to my heart, so to speak, but I will say that it's much needed. The conversation surrounding this subject is very much needed, right? So today's subject, we're gonna talk about sex. We're gonna talk about sex, sexual, not sexual intercourse. So we're gonna talk about sex and the impact that sex has on men, right? Because so often I hear women say things along the lines, "Oh, men just sleep with whoever, and they don't care, and it doesn't matter to them, and they don't get emotionally tied, and they don't get damaged, they don't miss out on nothing, and they just go around sleeping with whomever." So I said, well, let's really talk about this, right? Let's talk about what life of promiscuity had can distract you from, what it does distract you from, what it has distracted you from, and why you should not, why we as a male society shouldn't encourage other men, younger men, in particular, our older men for that matter as well, to be promiscuous. So I said, let's come together and have this conversation because it's necessary, right? I see my mommy is in the comments, so hey, mom. I love that you're always my first comment. I was on time today, mom, so you didn't have to text me or call me. Usually you'd be on my case about not starting on time. So thank you, mom. I love you so much for your constant support. Um, just too quick, too quick. What do you call them? Housekeeping. That's the word I'm looking for. Housekeeping things. If you're interested in supporting what it is that I'm doing here with the show, you can send any donations on Cash App. My Cash App was down for a little bit, but it's back up. You can send any donations on Cash App to dollar sign my brother. If you're interested in supporting anything that we're doing here, it goes to better technology. It goes to being able to pay some of the guests that comes on. It goes to better recording space, right? Better equipment, better marketing and advertising and things like that. So it's not like it's just lace in my pocket. It absolutely goes towards the things that we're doing here with the show. So any donations that you want to send, you can be sent to dollar sign my brother on Cash App. I also have PayPal and Venmo. So if you would rather use one of those mediums, just let me know and I can give you the contact information for that as well. Also, give me a follow on Instagram at the my brother show. Um, just give me the follow. Just give me the the comments are hilarious. Um, just give me a follow on Instagram at the my brother show. Just saying the loop about everything that we're doing here. All right. Yeah, I have to excuse me this week. I wasn't as up to standard with my advertising of this show. I actually started a new position in my personal life on Monday. And that's been kind of like, gathered a bunch of my energy this week, just kind of getting to know and learning the ropes of my new job. But I'm really excited about the new position. I'm really, really, really excited to be here to talk about this subject. All right, I done rambled on for what 5 minutes now. Let me go ahead and introduce my amazing guest. I have two returning guests for this particular episode. Firstly, this is my brother, man. He knows he's my brother, man. Anything that he needs, anytime he calls me for any of his shows, I'm there for him. Anytime I've called him for my show, he's been there for me. Um, you may have seen him on the Healing 101 episode. You may have seen him on the Dear Black Woman episode. You may have seen me on his show, What Were You Thinking? You may have seen me on some of his Ready for Relationship lives. I always credit him with being the motivation for me to start what it is that I'm doing, just from watching everything that he's doing in the relationship world. And he's currently recording his TV show, What Was He Thinking? And he's doing something called the Sexual Education of Men, right? Where he has a bunch of different males come on and talk about how they learned about, sex and things along those lines. So when I thought about the subject, I said, man, who better to have on than my brother, my friend AB Bracewell. AB, Are you muted? I think you muted.
What's
Oh,
going
there you
on,
go.
brother?
Hey, man,
Yeah,
glad you could
man.
join.
How you doing? No,
Yeah,
thanks
man,
for having me once again, man.
I'm looking forward to
Uh,
this, man. This is gonna be a good one.
yeah, yeah, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's go. Now, it's gonna
And
be
if
a
you're
good
watching and you
conversation. I know.
if you're watching me and you're wondering why I'm looking down, I actually have a laptop now. I know I told you I didn't have a laptop for a while, but now I have two laptops here. So I have my laptop and I have the one I bought, and I have my work laptop for my new job. So I get the opportunity to kind of look the second laptop. So I got two laptops now. So yeah, that's what I'm looking down at now. It's not my cell phone this time. um, but I'm really excited about the conversation.
You doing good for yourself, brother. Got two laptops over
Oh
there,
no,
brother.
man, it's
You coming up?
I've been on more Zooms in the last 2 days than I've been on all 2021, and I'm a little tired of the Zoom meetings already. Um, my next guest, man, I don't waste too much time because I do want to get into this discussion because I think this is going to be really heavy. My next guest, he's also a returning guest. He was on, I want to say, the second, maybe the third episode. I don't know which one it was overall when we talked about going through a custody and child support battles. And he reached out to me. He was like, "Yo, I want to come back on the show." And I was like, "Oh man, I completely forgot about re-inviting guests on from season one. I was so busy looking for new people to come on, and so I reached out to him. He's a former teacher. He's all the way from I was gonna say sunny Texas, but I mean it's probably better than it is in Philly. But he's all the way in Texas. He's a former teacher. He's an amazing man of God, and he's a really, really, really good friend that I think has a lot of amazing insight. I want to introduce my brother Lewis X. If y'all hear me call him X, that's why I call him X, like Professor Xavier. But my man Lou Alexander X, what's good, bro?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Oh
Thanks for
man, I'm
having me
really
back.
no man. I'm glad you could come on, man. I know that
Yes, sir.
we could definitely chop it up about this subject right here because it's
Oh
it's
yeah,
a good one.
it is, man. It is. I'm ready to get into it, man.
Oh, look at that, man! Ready to get into it. And if you do good enough, then Anima will reach out to you and have you come on this TV show.
Hey, man, I'm always available, man.
I was already thinking about it, man. Ain't no qualifications needed.
I'll even do the first couple shows for free, man. I got you.
Nah, man, but let's go ahead and jump right into it. So the first question I have is simple before we dive into the meat of the conversation. Just why do you guys feel as though men are celebrated for being promiscuous? Why do you feel like men are celebrated for chasing, an abundance of women?
I'll jump on that. First, it might sound like a disagreement, but I don't think men are celebrated for being promiscuous. And the reason why I say that because men aren't really called promiscuous. I mean, how many times have you heard somebody label a man as promiscuous? Now, we might say that he's a player. We might say he's a ladies' man. We might say he's an alpha male, but we have taken that behavior and changed the meaning and changed the definition when it comes to men. So that's why it's celebrated because it's actually seen as a good thing. It's seen as an attribute that that we supposed to have. I once heard somebody say that men have three things that we measure our manhood by, and that's the money we make, that's what we do on the field or on the court, and the amount of women we get. So, if we use our sexuality as a measuring stick to manhood, the more women you get is the more of a man that you seem. So yeah, you're gonna be celebrated for that. And it's I guess the way we've been conditioned, as men, you know, um, we see sex as a trophy. Sex as something that only a few, I shouldn't say a few, something that's very valuable that only a skilled man can get a lot of. So we celebrate guys for that stuff, for those behaviors. It's something that's championed, and I can't even say in our community. I think it's universal. You know, everywhere you go, a guy that is having a lot of sex, having a lot of women, is looked up to. Um, Guys admire him, and I would even say that some women desire him. So he's not only championed by other guys. You know, there's a lot of women that would desire the man that has a lot of women. Um, the only woman that may talk bad about it is the one that got hurt by his promiscuous behaviors. But those that haven't been hurt, probably they even see him as a guy to be desired. So I would say for those reasons, you know, it's championed, it's celebrated, um, to be promiscuous, as we would say.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I'm gonna let X talk before I chime in. So go ahead.
Um, well, I believe I believe part of it. First of all, I agree with you, brother, 100%. Men aren't really seen in society, uh, at least not until the last 20 years or so, as being promiscuous. Historically, it's always been a something that was looked up to in men, but something that's looked down on in women. And we'll probably get into that part of it later. But just speaking historically, even going back to when we were, bucks in the field, our value was measured not only in the amount of work that we could do, but the amount of stock, quote unquote, we could breed. And I think that has transitioned um, past 1865 into the core fiber, particularly in African Americans. And it's glorified even today in our music, in some of our literature. Men in general and black men specifically are uh, at times, unfortunately, praised for how many women they're able to get. And I think that on a larger scale, yes, not necessarily worldwide, but in particular with men on a larger scale, it's kind of a balancing act. And what I mean by that is we have to now we have to temper that with other things as well. You know, the car that you drive and the money that you make, and it's like it's a badge of stature for men. So in that aspect, I think we are definitely in some ways celebrated for being for our promiscuity.
Yeah, and I agree. What it is that you guys are saying. I think that for single men, for me myself, I know you're married, Lou and AB. I know you're off the market. But for me myself, as like a single man, if I have a conversation with someone and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm really not interested. Like for what I have going on in my life right now, the season I'm in right now in life is chasing women. It just isn't something that I'm interested in doing. I mean, we'll get into that down the road about the why about that. But like when I have that conversation with people, they're like, why? You're single. Like you should be, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, no. But again, like I said, we'll dig into that more deeper down the road. But there's something about the chase that I do want to mention. And Lou, I'm sure you'll X, I'm sure you'll agree with this. I was talking to one of my friends who's single one day, and she was talking about how badly she wanted to be married. She was tired of meeting guys who only wanted to sleep with her, and and I was like, well, your husband is also going to be motivated,
Right.
by wanting to sleep with you as well. Like so, in a sense, I won't say that I guess the quantity changes. And Lou, I'm sure X, you could probably elaborate on it. I'm sure the quantity of men would change in the confines of a marriage. But
Right.
I'm still like, I'm sure there's times where with your wife, you're like, man, let me clean up the house today because and put the kids to sleep tonight because man, like, you
Yeah,
know,
we just had that conversation this morning. While you know, we had that conversation this morning. Hey, we're gonna put everybody to sleep because just for me in particular, my wife works nights.
Mm,
So when I'm working during the day, whether I'm at home or whether I'm out at the funeral home, um, we're home for the most part during the day when the kids are gone. So we kind of playing around, or we try to. We try to play around like, hey, when after I come home from dropping, the little one off, you know, be ready, you know. And she'll call me too. What time you come home? You going anywhere else after you drop off?
Right.
Like, nah, what's up? Hey, you need to come home immediately. Oh, okay, yeah. So there is definitely that aspect to it.
hmm and I think the crazy thing about that though is to hear the conversation between like a husband talking about his wife, like, yo, man, like I can't wait to get her. I feel like you almost get a more positive response from society if, like, for me, if I was to say, yeah, man, like I got some girl at the house, after I get off live, some girl I met a few weeks ago is coming over, and you was to say, after I get off this live, me and my wife, I feel like in the male society in particular, I would probably get a more positive response. Like, oh,
Mm,
Reese, player, look at that. They
right,
be like, whatever, X, you a sucker husband, you know what I'm saying? Or all
right.
those stimps, or all those weird words that they
Yeah,
use, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
like that's kind of like my enigma, right? So AB, why do you think that is? Like that me, if I was like, oh, I got something lined up after the show, and X was like, I got something with my wife lined up after the show, like the reception will be completely different for those conversations.
Well, I mean, a part of it is that, kind of like I was saying before, it's the conditioning. Like X, like you going back to that one that you're always with.
Mm-hmm.
That's not as exciting as a single man that's going back to something new and probably is going to have something new the week after that. Like the story is more exciting for us to hear. We can live vicariously through you, Maurice, but that definitely comes with a level of immaturity. When we see that being able to be committed and devoted to one woman is less exciting or less rewarding than a guy that's running around and chasing a bunch of random ladies, all at once. So it definitely comes with a level of immaturity to celebrate that, and it takes some maturity and it takes some understanding to be able to celebrate X's position of being committed to one woman for the rest of his life. And
And real quick,
we're just not taught. Yeah, we're not taught that commitment. That's not something that's celebrated.
it's not. And real quick to add on to that, a separate piece is the man who is married, who is still, what I'm
Right,
saying,
right, right, right.
out there, and in some ways, uh, there are some women that will be acceptable of that. Like he is in some crazy way that he is more desirable because he is married, and it's like a real weird dichotomy where he's faithful or he's married, so in your mind he's faithful to, or he's of a higher standard or a higher caliber of man than someone who is completely single. And a lot of women and men get it twisted where they're like more desirable than the single brother who's not attached, who's not, tied down, who actually may very well want to be in a committed relationship. But, it's weird, man. And I see it all the time where people will still come at you, even though they know that you're committed and they know that you're married and they know all of these things. And for some reason, they feel like you're a better catch as opposed to the single man.
hmm Yeah, I remember when I became single, like I don't know, like not after my past breakup, the one before that. So it's like 2017. Like when I finally was like, all right, I'm gonna get back out there. Like the first two or three girls that I asked out on a date were kind of like, yeah, no, I don't really want to go on a date. Like, I mean, if you want to have a physical relationship, that's cool, but like, and I was like, what? Like, I mean, in my mind, I was like,
Right.
I'm like, what? Like, you're pushing it to this direction, but Like it was really weird to me when that happened, and like I saw the same thing that you were saying. Like once you kind of pop up as committed, even as a single, if you're unmarried, once you kind of pop up, start to post some nice pictures with your lady and things like that, it's like, oh, you become a little bit more desirable at this point. But it's like, no, I'm off the market now. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
I'm not, interested. Well, I shouldn't. I'm not gonna say I'm not. I shouldn't be interested in, some of those distractions. All
Mhm.
right, so we're
I,
gonna
I, I think I just had a
go ahead,
thought
go
on
ahead.
that real quick. I don't know if it's the belief that, or a woman's belief that they can't find those attributes in other men. So when they see it in one man, instead of saying, "Hey, I want a man like that," they say, "Hey, I want that man because he has the attributes that I'm seeking. He can commit. He can be devoted." And with all my experience with relationships and dating, I haven't found that yet. So I know that he has it, and even if he's giving his commitment towards that person, at least he has it, and that's why I'm
Hmm.
going to go after him. But
Right.
Hmm.
just a thought.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a challenging, like, oh, let me see how committed he really is. I found that for me personally, in relationships, my biggest challenge isn't from new women that I met. It's from old women that I might have dealt with in the past. And they see you in a relationship and they're like, oh, well, I used to get it when you were single. Let me see how committed you really are to that relationship. And that's been like the more so what I've seen it from, like, oh, well, I know you missed this, or you still want to come back around to this, things along those lines. And I'm like, yeah, nah, I'm good, sis. um,
Yeah.
so all right, so let's go into the next question. We probably was going to spend most of the rest of the discussion on these next three, honestly. But this is what the show is about. Let's talk about the impact that chasing women has on men mentally. What's that impact looks like. Like you're this man out there just spending all of your time, trying to get at talk to this girl, talk to that girl, going out with that girl, and paying that girl rent. What impact do you see that has on men mentally, or has on yourself in your past? Of course, because y'all both off the market, has had on yourself in the past, mentally.
Well, I think part of it is that, and I was kind of thinking about this question when you sent it to me. Um, as my brother alluded to earlier, we buy into that stigma of the chase and being top dog, for lack of a better term, and so a lot of times we will measure our own value on our own worth in that, instead of the quality of woman, it is the quantity of women. So we can go around our boys and be like, yeah, yeah, so on and so forth. I had this one the other week, and now girl chasing me, and things like that. And it really kind of becomes, it really kind of comes like an addiction.
Mm,
You know what I'm
mm,
saying? Like when especially if you are not uh, properly, I'm not gonna say coach, but especially if you didn't have that somebody like your mom or your dad or somebody older to come and sit you down and say, hey, this is what it is. This is uh, so on and so forth. We'll kind of take you through that, take you through what it's going to do to you mentally. It kind of becomes and really an addiction. Once you had that first taste, and I know I can only speak for myself, but nobody really came to me. I was never really given the quote unquote sex talk. You know what I'm saying? Uh, my father was unable to. Um, and my mother, I don't know if she was kind of like, my mother's a very kind of subdued woman. So I don't know if that was a very comfortable conversation for her to have with me. So everything that I learned about sex, especially mentally, was through trial and error.
yeah.
I didn't have anybody to sit me down and say, this is what you're gonna feel, this is how it's gonna be, and these are the things that you need to watch out for when navigating uh having sex and becoming sexually active. So for me, uh, after my first time and after the first couple of times, it was like, yo, this is amazing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody's doing it. Everybody, I got to have it. If she willing to give it to me, I was never the type of guy to pressure anybody. But if she just gonna throw it at me, then I'm gonna get it. And mentally, you kind of become addicted to it, you know. And that separation piece after the fact, as you grow up and mature, you kind of like left with uh just that physical aspect of it, and it becomes lacking.
And man, you said some things that was knocked out the park, that really resonated with me. My dad had to talk to me. I want to say I was like a sophomore in college. By the time my dad tried to talk to me about sex, I'm like, it's like a few years past, like, like I was a few years in it. I was in like my second year in college, and I remember walking in the house from work, and he was like, "Oh, I wanted to talk to you about sex," and I was just like, got up and walked out the room, like, bro, like, to like,
It's too late now.
right.
Yeah.
but but I wholeheartedly agree with that trial and error thing. I think initially it's a lot of trial and error. As a teenager, of course, you want to fit in with your friends. So one of your friends talking about they had sex, so I had sex too. You know what I'm saying? And like it's a lot of lying involved.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you be honest, as a teenager, like talk a lot of lying. I
Yeah.
remember one of my friends when I was a teenager was like, "Yeah, my first time I had sex, I went for an hour straight." I'm like, "Come on, bruh. Like you gonna sit here and look at me and lie like that, man? Like I mean, like so." But I also think that when you think of the mental aspect, that the mental impact that it has, I could remember. I don't know. You said a thing about self love is what comes to mind for me, right? When it comes
Mhm.
to like mentally, I know there was a season for I was in a relationship with a woman, and sexually we just weren't clicking. Like, and I'm talking about, I'm talking about early 20s, mid 20s. Like, sexually, we're really only maybe having sex maybe once or twice a month. And I was like, yo, I'm young. Like, what's going on? Like, sometimes I was struggling to get her turned on. And I didn't understand that you in that part of my youth, like the emotional and the mental aspect of it. I was just used to, when you're a high schooler, like, you want to do it, go. Like, why
Right.
isn't this work? Why isn't this working anymore? And I remember when I got out of that relationship, feeling like, man, I'm not attractive anymore. You know what I'm saying? Man, I don't got it no more. People don't look at me like she didn't like me. So initially, a lot of it was like, I don't view myself in the most positive sexual light, right? So I'm going to do this because it makes me feel better. Like after, like you said, it feels amazing. At the end, you feel good. Like the next morning, all those like inadequacies come back for like, but in the flow of it, like you feel great. You know what I'm saying? Then the next day, you're like, oh, okay, all those inadequacies are back here. So for me, mentally, it was a big journey of self love for me, right? And like I was looking for, like you said, the addiction, and people who are addicted to things are typically trying to numb something else, right? You're
Right.
trying to block out those painful feelings. For me, sexual, it was like I don't love myself. I don't view myself in the best light. I'm not the most confident. So if I go and sleep with a bunch of different women, maybe it makes me feel better. Like in the moment, I feel better. I feel, handsome in this moment. I feel loved in this moment. I feel, warm in this moment. I get feelings in these moments that I haven't felt, in the past few years. But
You
as
feel
I learned,
desired.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And as I learned to love myself more, now that I'm in a space in life where I love myself and I appreciate myself, it's a lot easier for me to be like, no, I'm good. Or like, like to someone might be flirting with me and I just walk out the store or, pull off the drive through or, what I'm saying, never exchange phone numbers with them or I'll get a phone number and never text the person or, things like that. It's a lot easier for me to do that. Especially if I know I'm not interested in nothing outside of, the bedroom because I'm at a point now where I don't need that sexual encounter to mask over any other personal feelings and inadequacy. Adam, I want to give you a chance to talk about that too.
Yeah, I think when I think about the way it affects us mentally or the way we think, I think like two major areas of life it impacts. It impacts the way we approach relationships or the way we think about relationships and the way we think about women. And of course, how we think about ourselves. If I'm a man that's just chasing sex or just after sex, kind of like I said before, is to me is just a trophy.
Mm,
It's just something for me to have another notch in my belt. And when I'm doing that, I no longer see women as women, or I no longer see women as even humans. I see them as a means to get my pleasure. So that's how we
mm,
start to objectify them. They
mm,
just become sexual objects. And of course, that's going to affect my relationships. That's gonna affect my ability to be intimate. That's gonna be affect my ability to be open. That's gonna affect a lot of stuff when it comes to building relationships in the way I view women, because all I'm really after is sex. I'm not after friendship. I'm not
mm.
after getting to know you as a person, what's on your mind. I might play like like I want to know those things. I might
Right.
I might act like I do, but the end of the road, I'm just after one thing. So it affects the way we think about relationships. And then of course it affects the way we think about ourselves. If I have a one, kind of like what X was saying, it becomes addictive. And if I have a one track mind, and the majority of my thoughts is how I can get sex, when I'm gonna get sex, and who I'm gonna get sex from, like, I'm not thinking about my goals. I'm not thinking about my dreams. I'm not trying to create a vision for my life or for my family. Like, all of my focus, or 90% of my focus and time, is going towards sex. I always say, if you show me a man that's chasing women, I'll show you a man that's not chasing his dreams, because you'll get one, but you'll end up losing the other. And
Mm.
all of that stuff is mental. It is about what we fix our minds on, what we become fixated on. And whatever we are fixated on mentally, that's going to control our feelings. That's going to control our actions. So it all starts mentally. And it's not only chasing women physically. It could be, just watching porn all the time or something like that. That's mental too. Like, anything that has to do with sex, my mind will go towards there, and it'll take me from the more valuable things in life. So yeah, it definitely affects
Yeah, and I think you knocked something out the park when you said, "Show me a man that's chasing sex, I'll show you a man that's not chasing my dreams." And I said it when I was on your TV show. I said the reason my brother isn't where I want it to be is because I've never sat down and given it the requisite attention. Because every time I sit down, like, hey, let me work on the show, or let me look into this, or let me reach out to this person, you know, um, I'll get a text, you get a text from a girl, or you get a phone call from a girl, and you're like, yeah, I'm not really that into her, but maybe I could sleep with her. So let me take this phone call, and now you done lost that evening, or in the confines of a relationship. I don't know about y'all, but I take a while to recover from arguments. So if I get into an argument with you and you're my girlfriend, like, not only do I lose the time of the argument, I probably got like a day or two where I'm just mad and I'm thinking about things I should have said in the argument, thinking about things I should have got off my chest. That's also mental time that's spent, what I'm saying, devoted to, that could have been devoted elsewhere. Um, and like, you miss out on so much. Like, I worked at a job, and literally the older men, like, almost every time they saw me talking to a woman there, they'd be like, you hitting that, you hitting that, you hitting that. And I'd be like, yo, bruh, like, like, I gotta relax. Like, why do y'all care that much? You know what I'm saying? But I think um people look for validation in themselves, right? And I think that these conversations are just starting to be had in the in the male community. But for a while, these conversations weren't happening. So sometimes you're like, well, dang, I probably shouldn't be being promiscuous. I probably shouldn't be, cheating on my wife, or chasing these girls, or sleeping with 4 or 5 different girls. But if I can see, brother X over there is doing the same thing, maybe I'm not that bad. Or, you know what I'm saying? If I can see brother AB over there is doing the same thing, you know what I'm saying? I can't be that bad. So let me see what he's doing. Like, I saw him, he walked to the store with Miss Susie for lunch. he must be trying to get in between her legs, because that's what I would be doing if I was trying to get in between your legs. But you might just be like one of my coworkers at my new job told me that she doesn't feel comfortable walking to the store because the job is in a rough neighborhood. So I said, well, anytime you want to go to the store, just let me know. I'll walk you up there. Like, but that wasn't me thinking I want to get at you. That was legit me being a male and being in protector mode, right? I would want somebody to do that to my daughter. So I would, what I'm saying, I was in that same. But if you see me and this young lady walking to the store a few times a week, and you say, "Oh, he must be trying to get that," that reflects on how you feel personally. That reflects on your thoughts personally. So that's good. You want to say something, X?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to AB when he was talking about how it makes you feel about yourself. Um, and wanting to be loved. A lot of times we will equate that, and it kind of goes into the next question. But will men want to be loved and desired just like women do? And a lot of times we will seek that if we're not mature enough and we haven't been taught. We'll seek that through sex and
Mm,
promiscuity.
mm, One of my mentors told me one day what he said. He said, "Women need to feel love to have sex. Men need to have sex to feel love." So, yeah, like I think that goes right on hand with what you're saying. Though, like I said, you said it yourself. It segues to the next question. Same thing. Let's talk about that impact that chasing women has on you emotionally. I think we all kind of hinted at it in our responses, but let's kind of hit it full throttle this time. What impact does chasing women have on men emotionally?
As far as emotionally, um, it's kind of weird because men traditionally have been conditioned to not be emotional.
Mm,
But in reality, we really are emotional creatures, just like women are. So it kind of messes you up in the very beginning because you're not supposed to equate, emotion, or you're supposed to separate emotion from the physical, but oftentimes it goes hand in hand. And if you're not mature enough to navigate that, then uh, they'll start to mesh, and the lines will begin to be blurred. Where, for example, in the vast majority of my relationships, because I grew up with a family mostly of women, and so the only real um, testosterone, I guess you could say, that I got was either at school or from uncles or older guys, or married uncles, because I don't have any I don't have any blood uncles. I have all aunts,
mm,
and my mother was a single mother. So I was other than my grandfather who passed when I was a teenager, I was the man. I was the testosterone and all of that in the family.
mm,
And so a lot of times in my relationships, when I started having sex, I still wanted to be, in a committed relationship. It's not like I was out just, not intentionally just chasing, I wasn't out there chasing tail. I still wanted to be in a committed relationship. But when you're in a relationship and you're not sexually mature or emotionally mature, those lines will start to get blurred. When you have sex, you'll say, "Oh, she loves me because she's willing to give it to me,"
mm,
and then that escalates into, "Oh, well, it's a lot of women that love me
mm,
because they're all willing to give it to me." You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of times we'll seek out that love from the opposite sex through sex, inadvertently, because we don't know any better. But
mm,
it takes a toll on you emotionally, because at the end of the day, like a lot of my relationships in my younger days, in my younger years, were very, I guess you could say, they were very toxic, because
mm,
while we didn't mesh on outside of sex, but sex was our way of showing our love. But there are other ways to do that emotionally. And it's particularly me. I didn't figure that out until much later in life. You know what I mean? This woman loves me because even though she's mad at me, she's willing to give it to me. When in all actuality, we just desire the physical. Now that I'm mature, I know you can get it from whoever, and there's no love involved. And so
Right.
that kind of messed me up internally, because I would be in love with a woman, or I would say I was not, because I really didn't know what love was when you're 15, 16,
Mm-hmm.
but even on into my college years, as long as the sex was good, then I'm thinking everything else is good. And that's not the
Mm-hmm.
case at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean to piggyback off of what you're saying. Not only, um, I think we as men have been trained to allow women to use sex in replacement to dealing with issues, if that makes any
Right.
sense. So, like,
Yeah.
if they do something that legitimately offends you, right, that
Mhm.
legitimately hurts your feelings, rather than apologize, rather than talk it out, rather than get to the root of this behavior that bothers you, that hurt my feelings, that hurt my emotions, you go ahead and accept sex or some oral sex or something like that, right? And everything's supposed to be all good, but like you never addressed why we got to this point where I was that angry in the first place. You know what I'm saying? And so to your point of saying, it makes you feel loved, I agree wholeheartedly because like you see it all the time. Like you see it in the memes. They be like, "Oh man, you made him mad, girl. Just go ahead and give him some head. He'll be okay." No, I'm not gonna be okay from that.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? Like while in the moment, yes, you know what I'm saying? It might be okay. Like I hear people saying all the time, "Well, angry sex is the best thing to do." I don't like, and even in the confines of a relationship, I never really was an angry sex kind of guy because like if I'm like mad at you, I want to have sex with you. Like I'm mad. Like that's for me. Like for me personally, that's toxic. That's for me personally. Like accepting sex in replacement of dealing with an issue is a toxic behavior, and that's something that I don't like to do. That's something that I don't encourage people to do. But I do think that from an emotional standpoint, I have seen men hurt from sex, kick windows, kick doors in, kick punch people in the face, you know what I'm saying, slash tires. I've been seeing I just had a man a few months ago, 50-year-old man who's going through a separation with his wife, talk to me about how much he was hurting. He was like, "Yeah, I've been with my wife for 30 years, and like for her to not be in the house with me right now is tearing me up on the inside." You know what I'm saying? So I think that what you were saying, men have the same emotions, right? You hurt. You love somebody really hard. And if that goes south, like even me personally, some of the things that I've dealt with, not just from sexual relationships, I just had someone fairly recently that I thought I had a good connection going on with, and then out of nowhere, like now I can't even get a response. Like, I never slept with her or nothing. Like I can't get a response. Like that bothers me. Like every now and then I'm like, yo, man, like what did I say? Like, to get shut down in this situation. I thought it was going really well. So like I think that from an emotional standpoint, it really hurts you as a man. It really bothers you as a man. And I think that for any woman who may be watching and listening to this, recognizing that although we may be able to hide the emotional aspect of it, um a little better than you guys can, that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, because you got that one trusted homie. Like I've talked to men who have with a straight face dead seriously told me like, no, like I love my side girl. Like fully married men have told me with a straight face like, no, like I really love my side girls. I really love, two or three of these women. And when I had to cut one of them off, to be in a committed relationship is going to be really tough. It's going to be really hurtful. So I think that from an emotional standpoint, it it is much more deeper than what we show on the surface. AB, I want to give you a chance to tackle that one too.
When I saw this question, I had to really have to look at it from two different angles. Um, I was looking at it from how the question is asked. Says, does chasing women impact me emotionally? And then I had to think, or did I have to impact my emotions in order to chase women? And what I mean by that is when growing up, me personally, being conditioned to chase women, go after sex, I had to do certain things to certain emotions in order to do this. I had to cut off the ability to trust. You know, players don't trust. I had to cut off the ability to be vulnerable. You know, playboys and ladies' men, they don't become vulnerable when they're chasing sex. I had to cut off my ability to fall in love. I had to cut off my ability to communicate my emotions. I had to cut off my ability to really become intimate and connect with a woman, because a guy that's chasing sex doesn't do any of those things. So I had to kind of arrest the development of those emotions. And so it's kind of like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Was it chasing women that affect my emotions, or did I have to affect my emotions in order for me to keep chasing these women?
Mm, mm,
And what what you guys are saying, what happens is that even if I was affecting or changing my emotions or blocking those emotions, that don't mean that those emotions wasn't present. I just
mm,
didn't learn how to express those emotions. I never learned how to exercise it. I never learned how to show a woman those feelings of love and vulnerability and trust and all that stuff. And what usually happens when you suppress your emotions, it always going to come out in another way. So you was talking about, you seeing guys angry and breaking stuff and kicking stuff. If we don't learn to have a healthy outlet for those emotions in a relationship, because we was too busy cutting them off in order to chase sex, it's gonna
mhm,
come out. It's gonna come out
mm,
another way. It's not gonna go away. And or we end up hiding those emotions, burying them, and then we're stressed and we're worried and we having heart attacks and all that stuff. If it doesn't come out either in a healthy way or unhealthy way, it'll affect us internally. So that was really I had to wrestle with this question a little bit, like, because for me, I think I impacted my emotions so that I can chase sex. I
mm.
wasn't going trying to fall in love and being trusting and devoted and committed and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I think to that point, I'm trying to think back to the first time I slept with a woman and I was in it emotionally and she wasn't, and like the impact that had on me. And I remember thinking like, whoa, like to what X was saying earlier about, no, like we're having sex, like this is love, like what I'm saying, we're here. And I remember like the first time I did it, and I slept with someone, and I was kind of like all in. I wouldn't say all in, but like I'm like, hey, how was it? Was it great? You know what I'm saying? What you doing? What you doing later? Want to go out sometime? And she was kind of like, nah, I'm good. And I was like, huh? Like, I'm like, whoa, 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 like, what's going on here? Like, this doesn't happen. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's supposed to happen before
The
we get to
tables
the
turn.
bedroom. Right. like that's supposed to happen before we got to the bedroom, not afterwards. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't know what happened here. Like, we unofficially together right now. So I think that the first time that happened, I was kind of like, whoa. So I'm glad you said that perspective, bro, because I do feel like after that moment, I was like, oh well, if that's what people bring into the table, you ain't gonna get caught. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna get caught with my and with football, I'm not gonna get caught with my arms in the air this time. Like, I'm gonna beat you to the punch now because I don't want to experience that emotion anymore or that hurt anymore. So, that's good. All right, and then the go X.
Oh no, I think another aspect of it is that when you're, and kind of to speak to both you guys' points, but just kind of another way to look at it, when you are when you equate sex with love because you're not mature enough to uh, navigate those things separately. A lot of times, like I said before, you'll think that somebody else loves you because they're giving you sex, or you'll be so into it and in your own mind so confused, like when like you'll like when you cheat on a woman, and then you tell the chick you cheated with, like, yeah, I did it. That's one of the lot of guys say it's just physical. You know what I mean? And so I was kind of in that where it was just physical, because part of it, when your brain, when you're in it, uh, like an addiction. But I'm still a good guy.
Mm,
You can still you
mm,
can still look at me the same way, even though I went outside of our relationship. I'm still a good guy.
mm,
But you're not, dummy. You're not a good guy if you have emotionally, you know, broken this woman that you claim that you love. You
mm,
know, uh, no, you're not a good guy. And for a while, that was kind of my experience, where the couple of times, in my youth, when I was out, and a lot of times we'll say, well, we're not really together, so it's okay. You know what I mean? But we're not really, we're not married. I even see people now, well into their 30s and 40s and 50s. They say if you're not married, you're single. To me, that's
mm,
bull. If
mm,
you make a covenant with someone, if you decide that you're going to be with someone, and both of you are supposed to be on the same page, it hurts just as much, whether you're married or you're not married. And I think some guys, and I fell into that trap too, will say, uh, I'm a loving man. Uh, like I said, I grew up with women, so I know how to treat a woman. So this is not me. This is not my character. I'm still a good guy. But that was me still equating, in some ways, sex with love, and having that confusion. And a lot of men continue to do that well into their older years. And now looking back on it, I'm like, you were an idiot, because you were not in that moment. You were not a good guy.
mm,
And for you to tell
mm,
someone else, for you to sit there and tell her that you're a good guy,
mm,
you know, after you've broken her heart and after you cheated on her, uh, that kind of speaks not only to hurting her, but that's kind of selfish on you. But you don't
mm,
look at it as being selfish when you're not mature enough to navigate it and not do that. You know what I mean? Uh, sex is a powerful thing, and it can be really
yeah.
confusing, even in
Mm,
the moments that you are screwing up. And that's not to make an excuse, but a lot of people go through that, men and women.
mm. Yeah, and I know I did a episode on AB show about cheating. And, it was, I think it was why the men cheat. And I remember on that episode, one thing I said was sometimes cheating stems from him not feeling love. And to the
Mhm.
earlier point we were making, if
Right.
sex makes you feel loved, then you're not feeling loved in the confines of that relationship. And I'm not championing this. Let me put that
Right.
out there. I'm not championing going out and cheating on your partner, but I understand that if you're not feeling loved in the confines of the relationship, why you may seek it elsewhere. I
Mhm.
didn't feel loved here, so I slept with this person because she made me feel loved. In the same, in the same capacity in which you may see women do it as well. He made me feel good. He did the things that you didn't do. And, the same thing happens for men at times. So
And,
I
and
got
it may not be even any of that though. It may be, they do love you, and they do do the things that people that love you
mhm,
are supposed to do. But when you
mm,
are equating sex with love,
right,
you're getting love here, and you can go get love somewhere else too. The more
right,
you
right,
get, the better you
right.
feel, right? And when
Hmm.
those two things are synonymous in your brain, then you start to fall into that trap.
Mhm. I have a comment here. Someone texts me a comment. He says, when you see the women who are attracted to players and womanizers, men will adopt those behaviors that they are drawn to. We all had someone we cared about deeply and wanted to be the good guy for them and watched the woman, kind of get drawn to the player. And we tended to change our behavior, to match that. And I partially agree with it, partially I don't. I think that it's deeper than just seeing women attracted to men who are the players, like you said, is in the music. Older gentlemen kind of champion it. Um, People your age range champion it. Like it's really accepted, honestly, at every walk of life. It's kind of accepted. You know what I'm saying? Like even for the older men, they'd be like, I'm gonna get me a nice young girl and be her sugar daddy or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost accepted, and I think that that's part of the reason that we do it because to the point I made earlier, if I say, hey, I got something lined up after the show, but oh, tell me about tomorrow, Reese. Oh, do you get to you smash the joint? If ask you like if I'm like, yeah, let's say we all lived in Philly and I'm like, yo, actually trying to get a drink, and you like, nah, the wife coming home, I'm gonna, spend some time and sleep with her. Oh, come on, man, you a sucker, man. Get out with the bros and things like that. So I think that we champion it in a sense. And I think that if I had this conversation that we're having right now, if someone sat down and had this conversation with me at 15, my view of sex, my treatment of sex, my treatment of women would be a lot different, right? So I think that that's what it is. So for the sake of time, let's move on to the next question. Um, unless you had something you want to say, AB, I'm really not too stuck on the agenda. You had something you want to say, or do you
No,
want to move on? All
no,
right.
good. We
So next, since
move on.
this is probably the easiest of the three, what impact does chasing women have on men financially? And AB, I remember me and you had a conversation about this before,
Oh,
so I'll
yeah,
let you go ahead and take this one first.
yeah. I mean, first of all, if you're out here chasing women, then you're not even trying to really educate yourself on finances.
Mm,
Like you're not really out here trying to figure out how money works to your advantage. Like so, you're putting yourself behind the eight ball, right there. But then I always look at it as there's two different ways that chasing women affects our finances. It's the direct way, and then there's some indirect ways. The indirect ways is the things that us guys often do with our money in order to impress women, so we can have sex with them. Is buying the nice cars or the jewelry or maybe the fancy clothing or guys just going to the club and buying in the bar and popping bottles. You're not directly spending money on women, but the reason you're doing that stuff is so women can be attracted, so eventually you can have sex with them. And that's just not a smart financial investment. And then of course then there's the direct ways we do things where, and I'm not talking about just one woman. If you're chasing women, it's multiple that you got. So we're talking about you taking them out on dates. You're going on 3 dates per week. You sometimes you just handing them money as a way to impress them so you can have sex. There's so many decisions we make with our finances that goes against really funding our dreams and funding our goals and making smart investments just because we're so fixated on sex. And that's probably goes back to what X was saying about that addiction. Like, there's some guys that would do almost anything to have sex. If you want to go past your finances, like we'll lie, we'll make up a whole different persona, we'll do all types of
right.
stuff. But just talking about money, like the little bit of money that you do have, instead of putting it towards something to build towards the future, and watching that money grow, you're putting something towards something is pleasurable, but it's also temporary, as like casual sex. And then but at the end of the day, we'll probably look at ourselves and regret it. Like all this money I blew, all this money I spent, for what? For what? Just for a couple of minutes of pleasure, and that's
Mm,
it. So
right.
yeah,
Okay.
some direct ways and some indirect ways,
Right.
but at the end of the day, if you're spreading it out to a bunch of women, that's a terrible investment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Man, I have I have blown so much money behind women and sex in my younger days. It is insane. I have, bro. I'm just keeping it 100. I've pawned stuff.
Mm,
If they needed, money, especially in the woman that I was dealing with, I've gone and I've gone out, I've borrowed money from other people, um, just to just for her to be happy. And in my mind, I'm saying that, well, I love her, and she needs stuff. So I'm a man. I'm gonna do whatever I got to do for my woman to make sure she's okay. But in reality, you know, I'm trying to not stop the sex train.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so financially, I think a lot of men would be in such a better place, just piggybacking off of what AB said, if they were able to uh, make that distinction, you know. And a lot of that comes with not how you feel about yourself, of course, as you alluded to, but also how you view women.
Mm-hmm.
We're taught, I think Scarface said it best. First you get the money,
Yeah.
and then you get the power, and then you get the woman.
Mm-hmm.
But then the flip side of that is when you get to a point where a mature woman will not allow you to have power over her just because you have money.
Mm-hmm.
And so that'll mess with you. That'll mess with you, or your ability, what you're able to do for her financially will not equate to uh emotionally what she needs. And when you're thinking that sex equates to love, you're thinking, oh well, if I break bread, that means I love you. If I'm having sex with you, that means I love you. And that's not the case at all. It's a deeper connection than all of that. So we spend money that we know we don't have. We're not going to even discuss child support. We already had that
Right,
conversation.
right,
You
right.
know what I'm saying? That's a whole other animal. But financially, you put yourself in a bind that you don't even know that you're doing, because you're not only are you emotionally stunted, not only are you mentally messed up, but now financially you don't even have you're not even you haven't even been taught how to properly move and divest and save money and do all of those
Mm-hmm.
things. You know, uh, we'll give a woman our last dime if we think we love her,
Mm-hmm.
and it don't even be love.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But that's again, that comes with hindsight is 2020. That comes with maturity, understanding that dynamic to a relationship, whether it be um, a full wholehearted relationship or simply just a sexual relationship.
Yeah, I mean, y'all knocked that out. I don't really have too much to add to this one. Y'all knocked it out the park. My dates cost money. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Drinks cost money. I've had times where I've had like $70 in the bank, and I knew I had a girl over, and she's like, "Well, I'd like to drink this," and I'll spend 30 of my last $70 on the bottle of liquor that she want. You know that, so I could entertain her when she's coming over, and then my gas tank on E, so the last 40, 30. You know what I'm saying? So there's been so many times that compromise or sacrifice my savings and things like that. I've emptied out my savings account at times to go on dates, to make sure I pay the bill for both of us just to kind of impress them. And I don't even sleep. Like, you don't even sleep with all these people. Like, sometimes you might not
Yeah.
even, right? You know what I'm saying? You
Mm-hmm.
trying and you don't get it. I remember, I don't know if y'all had Fogo de Chao in Texas,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it's a higher scale restaurant. I was talking to this girl in college, and like, never slept with her, but I just remember she was like, "Yeah, I was like, we should go on a date sometime." At this time, I was very much an Applebee's like level financial guy, and she was like, "Yeah, I want to go to Fogo de Chao." I didn't know what Fogo de Chao was. Like, I was an Applebee's and Olive Garden kind of guy. Man, that bill came out. I remember like grabbing my debit card and looking at the check and putting it back in my pocket and grabbing my credit card out because I couldn't afford the check, because I was just
Mm-hmm.
trying to impress the girl and nothing even came out of it. You know what I'm saying? So here I am, college student. Now I got like a $150 bill on my little 300 limit credit card because
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to impress this girl. The cars are things that you do. Like, you know, I've seen guys flat out playing rent at women's house, paying bills at women's house. I've seen guys working 70, 80-hour work weeks just so they could fund, you know, their home and someone else's home. And like all these different things, all for the name of getting sex, getting in between her legs. And it's just not worth it, man. I've been called like, and then even on the flip side, I've been called. I remember I was at it was like one of those coworker after work happy hours, and I was talking to this girl. One of the coworkers that worked there was there with a bunch of her friends, and she was like, "Why don't you buy us all a drink?" And I was like, "No, I'm not sleeping with none of y'all." That was actually my exact response. I said, "No, I'm not sleeping with none of y'all." She was like, "Oh, you just a broke nigga. Broke niggas be like." And I was like, if that's what, you know what I'm saying, if I gotta be a broke nigga,
I'll
then
be
I'll be a broke nigga.
it.
Like, yeah, look, I'll take it. You know what I'm saying? But financially, but you can tell that that came from a space of that's something she was accustomed to doing. You know, being out places, flirting with the guys, and not having to pay for her drinks. So it's not worth it
Yeah,
for me.
yeah. But
But
it definitely takes a guy to get a purpose. When you
mhm,
don't have a purpose, when you don't have real goals, like you don't have really no direction with your money. So
right,
the direction is probably going to go is towards women. But when you
mm,
sit down and you really establish a purpose and a goal, you're gonna you're gonna have to weigh out the two now and be like, do I put my money towards this or do I put my money towards
mhm,
that? And if you're really
mhm,
passionate about your goal, you'll know where you're gonna put your money towards.
right, and I agree. And I am not against like look, I mean, I'm a firm believer in do what makes you happy, but I do believe that you shouldn't deceive people, right? So like I'm not going to buy no Benz because I don't got Benz kind of money. Like, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like, I'm not going to get out here and make it seem like I have a greater financial status than I really have to impress someone. And then when they get into it, I'm like, yeah, nah, you know, I'm really paycheck to paycheck, or, you know what I'm saying? I'm really struggling, or I just got an eviction notice, or my cell phone's about to get cut off, or this car's about to get repoed. And, you know, we're out here eating at Fogo and Chima and Capital Grill. And, you know what I'm saying? We're going on all vacations every month. Meanwhile, my car is about to get repulled. I'm getting booted because I can't afford tickets because I just paid for that plane ticket and all that stuff. So I'm all for, you know, doing what makes you happy. If that's what you can afford, if that's what your tax bracket can afford, do it. Like you deserve to, you know what I'm saying, be happy, but don't lie. Like, you know what I mean,
Mhm.
find someone who's gonna meet you where you at. My advice to any man who feels like they have to impress a woman financially, man, is if you feel like she won't accept you for the level that you are at currently, she's not the one for you. And that's my firm belief about it. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think that whomever my wife will be one day will love me for who I am, not for how much money I have in the bank. I don't want someone who's only gonna love me because I drive a Benz or because I drive a BMW or because I got a nice, you know, 3-story, 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom house and I'm paying all the bills. Like I want someone who's gonna love me for me, right? Because I feel like that stuff could fade. It's could fade really quickly. You know what I'm saying? Just as quickly
Mhm.
as you get it, you can get into a car accident. Just as quickly as you make all that money. Let's say you make it to the NBA and you get your first paycheck, first game, you blow your knee out. Just as quickly as that money came, it's gone. So I would advise me, you know, who's in that position, as someone who personally has been with someone who flat out said, "You don't make enough money for me." And I remember how much that hurt me in the moment. Like, dang, I don't make enough money for you. I have to make more money because it wasn't even like I want to type deal. It was more so like I want to prove you wrong or I want to win you over. If that's what it takes to be with you, I want to do it. As someone who's been in that situation and has heard that come from someone that I thought that, you know, I wanted to spend the rest of my life with, I would recommend if they don't accept you for where you are, they aren't the one for you. And they should love you for more than what your financial status is.
Yeah.
Um,
And even if you're a guy that has that type of money, or if you don't have that type of money, like definitely don't do it just for the sex, because
Yeah.
you're gonna end up disappointing yourself, disappointing the person. Like you just don't do it if that's your only purpose, because
mhm.
It's a
you're
hollow
chasing
victory.
women. Yeah.
Hollow victory.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I don't know if we're gonna get to the other question I sent, guys, but I just like I beckon any man. There is so much more out here. And women, you guys are amazing. Don't get me wrong. You guys are amazing. I love women. You guys are great. But there's so much more out here than chasing the next person to jump into bed with you. And if you take a second and kind of turn your head from the woman, and you get to see how much, what I'm saying, how great you are as a person. You get to see how many great things life has to offer you. You get to see what your passions are. You get to develop your passions, your skills. You get to enjoy more than just like you get to enjoy time with your friends. You get to enjoy more time with your family. I sleep very well at night right now, knowing that I don't have to wake up and argue with nobody because I didn't send a good morning text, or I don't have to hear a mouth from nobody because what I'm saying, oh, you haven't hit me up all day or nothing like that. I sleep really well at night, knowing that I don't have any of those struggles. And there's a lot young, old, middle-aged men that you're missing out on if you devote your energy to chasing women. So I would recommend finding a therapist. I say it every episode. Find yourself a therapist. Figure out what it is that you love. Figure out what love really means and what love really looks like to you outside of the sexual realm, and find a way to incorporate that in your day to day living. Um, and I promise you, man, you'll unlock. It's like putting in the cheat code to life because you just unlock so much more to what it is. And for what it's worth, when you have those moments where you want to sleep with someone, like you can still do that, but you don't have to devote that level of energy to to just searching out for woman after woman after woman. Um, so, do you guys have any advice that y'all want to leave the men with today?
Um, I would just say, listen, I know we spoke about it real quickly before we started. Yeah, I went, I went on a journey of abstinence for a little bit, and my word would just be during those 2.5, 3 years, like I think I accomplished the most I've ever had in life,
Mm,
towards working to my goals. So really like if you could you find your purpose, establish some goals, put your time and your energy towards that, opposed to chasing women, and you'll end up being a lot more happier in life. Um, that's about it.
yeah, and to piggyback off of what he was saying, I remember I was in a toxic relationship before, and I remember when it ended, like just how much free time I had. And I'm not just talking about time spent with her. I'm talking about time where I wasn't arguing, time where I wasn't just sitting on the phone, time where I wasn't texting anyone. Like I had so much more time, and that's kind of where the idea for my brother was birthed from, because I wasn't sitting around thinking like, well, what can I do to avoid argument today? What can I do to make the relationship better? How can we, kind of get back on the right page, or on the phone, or angry because I didn't hear from her, or upset about this? Like that's where my brother was birthed from. It was from me being in the space of not having those distractions in place, those things that were blocking me out from pursuing my passion. And I was able to kind of sit down and write out what I wanted it to look like, what I wanted it to accomplish. And then, on the flip side, the moment that I started to kind of get back out there was why it took so long. And AB, you could attest to. I remember for a while, like darn near every time I saw him, he was like, "Yo, what's up with my brother? My brother." You were talking about it, and then you just stopped talking about it, and it was because I didn't no longer had the energy to devote to it because I was starting to get back out there, and I was meeting someone new, and I was going on dates and all that stuff again. So I wholeheartedly agree with what he's saying about being able to accomplish so much in that time. X, your thoughts?
Um, I will say this. Even we didn't get to the last question, so I'll touch on it just very briefly in my closing. Um, Men, it's okay to be celibate.
Mm,
It's okay to not have sex. Things began to become so much clearer to me personally when I sat down and said, after all of the crazy drama and stuff that I had gone through, I need to chill out. I need to chill out. I need to redevote myself to. I need to find a purpose, as Brother AB said. I need to redevote myself to the values that I was raised with, and the things that I know are inherently right for me. And once I did that, and I really made the commitment, um, I really started to see the wisdom in people waiting until marriage. I really started to see the wisdom in uh, making sure, as a believer, what we call that you're equally yoked.
Yeah.
I began to see the wisdom in all of that, and I'm going back and I'm reading. I'm like, this makes so much more. This makes so much sense. It makes so much sense, not just for your journey as a man, but for the woman that you eventually want to uh, uh, share a union with, because that's really what it is. It's a union, and sex is part of that union. A lot of people don't believe that, whatever. But for me personally, I came to find out that it really is part of that union, and you really have to reach a point where you are emotionally and mentally and financially stable enough
Yeah.
to take on the responsibility of having sex, because it really is a responsibility, to yourself and to your woman. People talk about soul ties and that kind of stuff. That's real. That energy that you displace with someone is real, and that energy needs to be cultivated and matured before you can properly share it, and exchange it with someone who's on the same level as you. So
Uh,
I recommend celibacy. I really do, for men who have not yet done it, for men who have done it and they're trying to get themselves together and come back to themselves. Um, because it really did change my whole entire perspective on what sex really is, and what sex really means when it's between uh, two adults.
yeah. And we talked about that for the show. I haven't had like a intentional season of celibacy. Like I've had time between women, but I haven't sat down and ever been like, I'm going to be celibate. Um, but what I will say is one major thing that someone advised me of maybe 4 or 5 years ago. They said his married guy is about 10 years older than me. He was like, you need to learn. He was like, I'm married because I was complaining to him. I was like, I'm in a relationship. I don't have no sex with her. Blah 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 blah. And he was like, yo, I'm married. I still don't have sex with my life. You have to learn how to control it, like control your urges, control your drive. Like there's no reason I'm on the phone going off to him at like 3 in the morning. He's like, there's no reason you should be on the phone with me at 3 in the morning complaining about sex. Go back to that mental and emotional thing. Like this is me at 3 in the morning complaining about sex to someone that's married. And he's like, look, you got to learn how to control it because you're going to be sexually frustrated or not get as much as you think you should for the remainder of your life. So learn how to control those urges, right? And for me being in the season that I am now as someone that's able to say to control those urges, to turn someone down or to just not even be that pressed about it, I agree wholeheartedly. And for me, honestly, recently I've been really thinking like I might as well just go ahead and go celibate because the few times that I might go ahead and have sex now, I don't even enjoying it to be honest with you, because it's like what I'm looking for right now is so much deeper than just that, you know, temporary connection. Like I know it's not going anywhere afterwards. I'm annoyed right afterwards. Like I'm like, why are you like what's going on? Like roll over like why are you here? You know what I'm saying? And I think about the show. I think about my job. I think about my kids. I think about everything that I want to accomplish in life right now and how this time has taken away from me working on those things. Um, and I'm really at the point where I think about it, like I might as well go ahead. Like I'm not as into it as I was in my 20s right now anyway. Like I'm very spaced out. So go ahead and go celebrate, Maurice. I haven't gone all the way off the deep end yet. But listening to you guys talk, man, like it's really it's really in my head again now. So
Hey, brother.
I
You
saw
got
that
my
face,
support.
man. I
You
saw
got
that face when I said it, man.
you got my support, man.
Yes, sir.
You got my full-fledged support, brother.
You know what I mean? Like we all have moments. Like I know we didn't address on that. Like we all have moments. Like everyone has a moment where they just want some physical companionship. That's gonna be a thing. But I think that when again, like if you think about everything we talked about that you get distracted from in this episode, if you factor that in, it's a lot easier to say no in those moments of weakness. Like I'll sit there like there's some times we talked about things that you've done. There's some times that I've like found babysitters for my kids so that I can have
Right.
somebody come over. Like, are you kidding me? Like I'm taking away time from my children to have a temporary session with someone who I don't even have any intentions on talking to in 2 days or 3 days. Like, what am I doing out here? You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to do better than that. So that's my thought process now at this age that I'm in. Like, can I go out there and pursue a bunch of women? Yes. Do I want to? No. And that's where I'm at in life right now, if I'm being completely transparent. um,
I think yesterday I put up a post and it said I got to the point in life where I could no longer sin in peace.
mm,
And I
mm,
know you are a man of God.
Yeah.
So conviction is a big part of our lives sometimes. Got to a point where I couldn't sin in peace.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's the riddle of the Sphinx, man.
Mm-hmm.
Your mind supersedes your carnal desires.
mm,
Mm-hmm.
mm. Nah, that's real. And I wholeheartedly agree with y'all, man. So thank y'all. I really do appreciate that. I know anybody watching, we got a little deep towards the end. I'm in a little personal towards the end. But I really hope that y'all took something from it, man. I think that is I really am happy that you just got a good 15, 20 minutes of black men talking about celibacy and abstinence anyway. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
unheard of, right? You know what I'm saying, in the black male society. So I hope that you guys could appreciate that aspect of it. XAB, I appreciate you guys coming on, man. I'm not gonna take up any more of the people time. My mom is going to yell at me when I call her in like a half an hour. She'll be all right. She yells at me every time I go over an hour and 15 minutes. She yells at me. But I love you, mom. Thank you for being supportive. um, Again, if follow me on Instagram, you see the name scrolling at the bottom of the My Brother Show. Um, Honestly, I think I'm going to take maybe like the next 2 episodes off just to get my feet wet in my new position right now, because I'm hybrid right now and I'm half in the office and half at home. So you probably won't hear anything for the rest of May, and probably not for the first episode that would be in June. Then I'll probably be back at that. I just want to take a few weeks to kind of get my feet wet in this new position. I'm working with a drug and alcohol population right now, and I'm doing trainings and job trainings and things like that with them. So it's going to require a lot of emotional patience
Yeah.
and empathy and
A
things
lot of
like that.
peace.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of
So I want to
internal
be able
peace.
to, right, get my feet wet in the position that's funding this right now before I, kind of pull from that to get back into this. So just bear with me, guys. I'm not going anywhere. I just kind of need it. But thank y'all for watching. Kelly, thank you for saying, great show, guys. I appreciate you. Um, XAB, man, y'all my guys, man, and I would love to have you guys back on again. Do something similar to this, man. I think this was dope. I think this is actually really, really, really dope and necessary. So thank y'all. Follow
Thanks
me
for
on
having me,
Instagram.
brother.
God
I'm gonna
bless you,
sign
brother.
off,
Thank you.
y'all. And we should be off.